So Ye, formerly known as Kanye West, has released an official apology highlighting his mental health troubles that he's experienced. We're going to read the whole apology because I found some very interesting things in there that I want to talk about regarding his bipolar disorder as well as the autism he talked about and a bit of his past that led up to this. Obviously, Ye is very influential in the music space. He has influenced my music journey in many ways. He pulled inspiration from the likes of Jay Dilla, which is from the city I'm from, Detroit. However, we can't ignore the chinks in Ye's armor that have been presented in the many ways that he has expressed himself, whether it's against certain people groups or he's just doing social experiments, as he's called it. And it's left many people, such as myself, confused on what's actually going on. The people that can relate the most to certain actions that Ye has shown are probably folks that share in his mental health struggles. So without further ado, let's get to reading the apology and what he said and breaking it down. So he starts off saying, "To those I've hurt, 25 years ago, I was in a car accident that broke my jaw and caused injury to the right frontal lobe of my brain. At the time, the focus was on the visible damage, the fracture, the swelling, and the immediate physical trauma. The deeper injury, the one inside of my skull, went unnoticed." Now, I've been a Ye fan since '04, so I remember when he got into the car accident and he posted it through the wire video. His jaw was wired shut. Like, that's a traumatic event to experience. And he had on his seatbelt, thank goodness. And he still went to the studio recording through the wire with his jaw wired shut, hence the name, but also the sample that he pulled it from. Through the wire. This is why I love Ye. This was the beginning of my relationship with hip hop expressions. So he says he gets into this car accident and things underneath go unnoticed, but way more things happen to Ye after that. But let's get into it. He says comprehensive scans were not done, neurological exams were limited, and the possibility of a frontal lobe injury was never raised. It wasn't properly diagnosed until 2023. That medical oversight caused serious damage to my mental health and led to my bipolar type 1 diagnosis. And if you don't know what a bipolar 1 diagnosis is, bipolar type 1 is a mental health condition defined by the occurrence of at least one manic episode in a person's lifetime. To be classified as bipolar 1, a manic episode must meet specific standards. Symptoms must last at least 7 consecutive days for most of the day, nearly every day, or be severe enough to require hospitalization, in which case there is no minimum duration. Core symptoms: a distinct period of abnormality, elevated, expansive, or irritable mood, and increased energy. Associated behaviors: at least 3 of the following, 4 if the mood is only irritable, must be present. Inflated self-esteem or grandiosity, significantly decreased need for sleep, feeling rested after only 3 hours, pressured speech or being much more talkative than usual, racing thoughts or flight of ideas, extreme distractibility, increased goal-directed activity, socially at work or sexually or physical agitation, excessive involvement in high-risk activities, spending sprees, reckless driving, or foolish investments. Now, there's a video on Ye's YouTube channel. It's the same video where he was getting into it with the Adidas execs. Some of y'all probably don't know about this, but throughout that entire video, I just see Kanye or Ye in forward motion, constantly moving, constantly on to the next thing. He goes to designs, to music video shoot, to a meeting, to car rides, to playing demo records, like even to go to one of his kids' games, and then they're walking with him. He's moving, on to the next thing, on to the next thing. And that was one of the times where he was saying some pretty interesting things, but there were also some interesting things happening to him that aren't likely to happen to other people, such as being involved in a $1 billion+ partnership with Adidas and them taking designs and breaching the contract. We don't get to see behind the scenes at how those things affect somebody's mental health. And additionally, many people know Ye lost his mother. He lost his mother in the early 2000s due to complications from a medical procedure that I believe was cosmetic. Don't quote me, you can look it up. And that really did something to him because Ye's mom was very, very involved in his life and in his creative process and backed him and was a huge supporter of him. Ye lived in China growing up for some time. His mother was an educator. And so that trauma right there can open you up to mental health disorders. especially the ones that he's struggling with. So let's keep going in his letter. He says bipolar disorder comes with its own defense system, denial. When you're manic, you don't think you're sick, but you think everyone else is overreacting. You feel like you're seeing the world more clearly than ever, when in reality you're losing your grip entirely. Once people label you as crazy, you feel as if you cannot contribute anything meaningful to the world. It's easy for people to joke and laugh it off, when in fact this is a very serious, debilitating disease you can die from. According to the World Health Organization and Cambridge University, people with bipolar disorder have a life expectancy that is shortened by 10 to 15 years on average, and a 2 to 3 times higher all-cause mortality rate than the general population. This is on par with severe heart disease, type 1 diabetes, HIV, and cancer, all lethal and fatal if left untreated. The scariest thing about this disorder is how persuasive it is when it tells you you don't need help. It makes you blind, but convinced you have insight. You feel powerful, certain, unstoppable. I lost touch with reality. Things got worse the longer I ignored the problem. I said and did things I deeply regret. Some of the people I loved the most, I treated the worst. You endured fear, confusion, humiliation, and the exhaustion of trying to have someone who was at times unrecognizable. Looking back, I became detached from my true self. In that fractured state, I gravitated toward the most destructive symbol I could find, the swastika, and even sold t-shirts bearing it. One of the difficult aspects of having bipolar 1 are the disconnected moments, many of which I cannot recall, that led to poor judgment and reckless behavior that oftentimes feels like an out-of-body experience. I regretted them deeply, mortified by my actions in that state, and I'm committed to accountability, treatment, and meaningful change. It does not excuse what I did though. I am not a Nazi or an anti-Semite. I love Jewish people. To the Black community, which held me down through all of the highs and lows and the darkest of times. The Black community is unquestionably the foundation of who I am. I'm so sorry to have let you down. I love us. In early 2025, I fell into a 4-month-long manic episode of psychotic, paranoid, and impulsive behavior that destroyed my life. As the situation became increasingly unsustainable, there were times I didn't want to be here anymore. Having bipolar disorder is a notable state of constant mental illness. When you go into a manic episode, you are ill at that point. When you are not in an episode, you are completely normal, and that's when the wreckage from the illness hits the hardest. Hitting rock bottom a few months ago, my wife encouraged me to finally get help. I have found comfort in Reddit forums of all places. Different people speak of being manic or depressive episodes of a similar nature. I read their stories and realized that I was not alone. It's not just me who ruins their entire life once a year despite taking meds every day and being told by the so-called best doctors in the world that I am not bipolar but merely experiencing symptoms of autism. My words as a leader in my community have global impact and influence. In my mania, I lost complete sight of that. As I find my new baseline and new center through an effective regime of medication therapy, exercise, and clean living, I have newfound much needed clarity. I'm pouring my energy into positive, meaningful art, music, clothing, design, and other new ideas to help the world. I'm not asking for sympathy or a free pass, though I aspire to earn your forgiveness. I write today simply to ask for your patience and understanding as I find my way home. With love, Yay. Now, what do you guys think about that? I can imagine that there are a lot of people that are like, yeah, I ain't gonna forgive him though, because that was wild. His whole Twitter rant and the things that he was saying, going DEFCON. And for some, they're just diehard fans regardless. He could do no wrong. You know, for somebody such as myself, you know, I stand somewhere on the side of what does this all mean to him really? Because I have an interesting view when it comes to Ye and his background in Hollywood, because he was brave enough to expose some of the text messages that really became a linchpin to how Hollywood works behind the scenes. And that was when he exposed some text messages from his trainer, Harley Pasternak, which a lot of people have been researching over the past year, who is somebody that used to work in the Canadian military, specifically as a civilian nutrition and exercise scientist. Now, he has worked in Hollywood and had many clients, and his title was a trainer. And the text messages between him and Ye happened after he had some things to say about the people behind Hollywood. Ye exposed a message where Harley said, hey, either you can stop using that language and we can have a nice conversation, or you can become a zombie and pretty much will Psych 5150 you, and visitation time with the kids won't ever hit the same. I'll put the exact text messages up for y'all to see for yourselves because I am paraphrasing, but After those text messages came out, many people began researching Harley Pasternak to find that he was the trainer for multiple people in Hollywood, and the trainer that he was included giving them medications, and it really didn't have much to do with exercise. Like, what is going on? When I look at this letter from Ye, I can acknowledge that that's something that he might say, but it conditions me to be suspicious of who's influencing him to make these types of amends, because Ye never really cared. And if you look at artists throughout all of history, they tend to be rogue. And I'm not saying that rogue is right, but it is on par with being a trailblazer. You make the first mistakes, but you also are the first one to get to the treasure. Whether that's financial, whether that is philosophical, ideological. Trailblazers often get blazed by their own trail in the process and judged for it. My only thing is this: if Ye starts to not be outspoken at all, then, you know, to me, I'm just looking at this as like, oh yeah, you're just doing what your people ask you to do. So the question is, how do people that struggle with these things move forward? And everybody has to find their journey. Just because you have bipolar disorder and this person has bipolar disorder, it doesn't mean you have the same experience. It doesn't mean your mania leads you to do the same thing. But when people share about what they're going through and what they're experiencing, it can create the desire to put our heads together and to find things that work. And I think it's very important if we want to have progress and true dialogue about our mental health. You guys let me know what you think. What do you think about Ye's apology? What do you think about some of the things that I shared? I know Hollywood could be highly weird, but I wish Ye the best. I wish that he will just continue to create and to field his thoughts and his ideas through fashion, music, and not these aggressive Twitter posts. You know, at the end of the day, like, even though you got freedom of speech to do all of these things and whatnot, it's not the best way to get your point across to people. You know, we're in a time where people have a desire to know the truth, and the desire to find it is also at an all-time high. But let me know what you think about this video in the comment section. Make sure you like this video, make sure you drop a follow, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.
Hey, we are living in a psych ward. I'm quite sure this is psych ward. I'm quite sure.